Hey there, everyone. We had a few questions about what we're going to do for brakes on the 58. 58 and these J&L locomotives never had brakes on them. They were basically use a Johnson bar, put it in the the opposite position to slow you down, and then I guess they just kind of crashed and banged into the ingot mold cars they were moving. But it never had any provision for brakes. And because of the way the frame is built and everything is solid and so low to the ground, there's no room for any traditional brake rigging either. And also, this was not set up to have any compressed air on it, so there's no air compressor, there's really no room for one. But what we can do is install a steam brake setup, very similar to what a lot of steam locomotives had steam brakes. Shays had them quite a bit. A lot of smaller engines had steam brakes. And a steam brake system is very simple. You have a steam brake valve in the cab. When you open it up, it allows steam pressure to come down into the cylinders, pushes on the piston, pushes the brake shoes. Then when you release it, it releases the pressure. And then each the cylinder has these little spring-loaded drain valves that would then open up and allow the water and condensation to run out. So we're going to do the same thing here on the 58. And what I've come up with is having brakes on all four wheels, and each one having its own brake cylinder and own brake rigging. And then the four cylinders would then all be tied into the brake valve. So kind of looking at ways that we could do this using as many off-the-shelf components as possible. Now there isn't a lot of room here to put a brake cylinder. There isn't very much room in the back either. But this is a 6-inch air brake cylinder that actually came off of the GE 70-ton locomotive we have on display. And it is going to be the guinea pig, the donor, if you will, and provide the parts that we need. So you have your brake cylinder itself, the non-pressure head, the piston rod is in there. There's a spring and the piston itself. Then you have the pressure head, and then you have the push rod that fits in there, and you have the brake shoe and the brake head as well. So since this was designed for using air pressure and up to about 140-pound main reservoir pressure, but it's not designed for steam. So the piston in here has a rubber cup instead of having an actual piston with rings, which you would need for steam. So in order to make this work, we're going to have to take that piston out and make a new piston with rings. And also, I'm a little concerned that this rather thin iron casting and this thin head are not going to be safe enough to use with steam. So we're going to have to replace all that as well. So I can still use the non-pressure head because there's no pressure on this side. I can use this part, reuse this. We'll take this out, probably get a piece of 6-inch ID by 8-inch OD seamless tubing, heavy wall seamless tubing, and weld a piece of flat plate to it. And then with that heavy wall, then we can then drill and tap holes in the back, put a piece of plate on the rear end for the rear head, and then drill and tap holes for the front and put this on. Then we take that and then mount it here, and then come up here somewhere and make a weldment with a pin sticking out of it to have a brake beam or a lever that would hang down. And then at the we would have this that would come out into that lever, and then we'd also have the brake head that would also tie into that lever as well. And so that when you apply the brake, the piston extends out, pushes up against the wheel, and does it on all four corners. I've mocked up these parts on the rear of the locomotive here to try to give myself an idea of how this is going to work and if everything's going to fit together. The bottom plate of the rear platform is here, so the cylinder would be fastened to the bottom of that plate, which actually is going to come out this far. And then we have the brake head in here. Now this needs something to pivot on, so the upper plate actually comes out to about here, and it's about right here. So I can put a hanger right here and drop a piece of plate down big enough for 2 pins, and then all of this will just kind of swing back and forth on this. And I can do the same thing on both sides. So it looks so far that the brake insulation is going to work back here. If you're wondering where we're getting these components from, this is it. This is the GE 70-ton center cab that we have here on the property, and you can see in here there's the 6-inch brake cylinders as they're mounted on the locomotive. And since this locomotive is going to be on static display and never going to run again, we can remove the components we need from the backside that nobody's going to see and use them on the 58. And then you can also see there's the brake head and how this one is set up. This basically explains the system of what we have to do and the work that needs to be done to do this. I don't think we'll have the brakes done by the time the locomotive is operational, so we'll have to use the Johnson bar for stopping, but I don't want to wait too long to get the brakes done, because if we have other people in the team running the locomotive, I want to have that security of knowing you turn one valve and the train's going to stop, instead of fiddling around with finessing it to a stop. So that's basically what's going on for the brakes, and sure we'll talk about it more when we actually get into the process of manufacturing the components for this and installing it and testing it. But this is one of the few modifications we're doing on the locomotive to bring it up to modern standards, if you will. And I think it's a very necessary modification. So thanks for your support, everybody, and I'll see you next time.